Good morning, hello to everybody, and welcome to another Kerfuffle showcase. I'm delighted today to have Richard, founder and CEO of Inventory Hive, and Michael here, operations manager from TDS. Hi guys, how are you?
Very well, thank you. I've got
a bit
of a man cold going on, but I'll power through, Simon.
Look, Richard, I had the first 5 minutes dedicated to the man flu. That can't be overstated. I was gonna whistle through all my favourite remedies. Quite a lager.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, whiskey. Yeah, all those.
Strong Vindaloo.
I haven't had one this morning yet, but maybe later.
Well, look, our hearts are with you. Obviously, we're thinking of you.
Thank you.
Try and bear with us just for the rest of this. Guys, we're here today really excited. Actually, one of the things I most like about this job is where we see two suppliers within the industry actually working together. And you've come up with a partnership, haven't you, which we're going to be talking about Thursday, literally just kind of hot off the press. That's quite exciting. And
absolutely.
Certainly the clients of both TDS and Inventory Hive, a real positive to look forwards to. Before we kick into that, though, guys, would you mind just kicking off with just give a little bit of background on yourself and the business for those people that don't know you? Kick off with you, Richard, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah, no problem, Simon. I'll give you my my best elevator pitch. I've done this one a few times, so I've got this patter down. So Inventory Hive. Say that again.
I said you're setting yourself up now. You're saying,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'll fall flat on my face now. So Inventory Hive, we're a cloud-based software platform that allows landlords, agents, inventory clerks, universities, build-to-rent providers to create reports relating to condition, cleanliness, and compliance. We've been live for approximately 4 years, so in comparison to some of our competitors, we are perhaps one of the new kids on the block, but we have innovated the market over the last 4 years. Within a few months of us going live, we were working with universities as well, so we're quite prevalent in the student accommodation sector as well. So our growth, really much of that's come over the last couple of years. And we're obviously really excited about the partnership that we've got going on with TDS. In terms of what Inventory Hive does, you can create reports like inventories, interim visits or management visits, as people call them, checkouts. You can also serve pre-arrival documents, and a new feature that we haven't even announced yet is that you'll be able to flip inventories with 360 images and convert them straight into virtual tours. So the idea of that, of course, is that 360 photos within inventories is becoming more commonplace, and that's something we've pioneered over the last couple of years because our app will talk directly to the 360 cameras. So whilst you're going to a property, you're tagging the images in the right room, and in doing so, that means you have a 360 image that can be used, in the event of a dispute at the end of the tenancy. It's great for showing like location of smoke alarms, decor, that kind of thing. But of course, we also recognise that a lot of our agents that use the platform, they don't necessarily have the opportunity to go back to a property every year, or because obviously constraints on their time, and they don't always get the opportunity to update their marketing particulars when they're doing that. So we thought, right, why not give them the idea that they could do an inventory today. When that tenant moves out, they can then take those images and switch them into a virtual tour without having to go back to the property. Is the big kicker. So that's something new. So probably went off track a little bit there, Simon. Probably gave you more than you asked for.
It's all right. It was just a long elevator.
It was, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. State. Your chance to knock it out the lift.
I'll give it a go. Yeah. So the dispute service is a private company which operates a number of tenancy deposit schemes in England. So we have our custodial deposit scheme, which allows agents and landlords to protect a tenancy deposit free of charge, and we hold the funds. And we also have our insured scheme, in which they can pay a small fee for us to protect the funds, and they retain them in their own account. So both of those are through a contract with the Ministry of Housing that we have to operate those schemes. We're a not-for-profit company. Our key mission is to raise standards in the private rented sector through deposit protection, dispute resolution, and some other initiatives which we have, such as Money Shield, which is a client money protection scheme.
Yeah.
So personally, I've worked primarily in our dispute resolution department. So I spent a couple of years working as an adjudicator, and sort of seeing the importance of, inventory inspections and other evidence when it comes to disputes and negotiating the tenancy deposit at the end of the tenancy. And I also run some training and attend events to talk about how adjudicators sort of approach disputes and the importance of it.
Perfect. Raising standards, not for profit. That sounds exactly like Kerfuffle. That's we do that accidentally though, rather than have that as a mission goal. Okay. Guys, why are inventories so important, and how have you seen them evolve in recent years?
Yeah, so I'll maybe start with that one, Simon.
Yeah.
So I think inventories. I think in years gone by, they were very much focused on the deposit. They were often about condition and cleanliness. But I think with the term generation rent, as we've been hearing over the last few years, I think a lot of it is about tenant resident satisfaction for a start. They want to be able to have a fair way to engage with their reports, as well as they want to have a fair, enjoyable experience within renting their property in the first place. And then so that's the sort of on the tenant side, but also on the landlord, on the agent side, it's much becoming about a compliance necessity now as well. So the Fitness for Human Habitation Act is a really good example. As of March 2020 this year, they made it so that that applied to all periodic tenancies. And therefore it's really important nowadays to have an inventory when the tenant goes in, to do regular interim visits and checkouts now. And also, of course, give them a quick and easy way to raise maintenance issues, and that's why we partner, for instance, with platforms like Fixflow on that. So I think it is very much now becoming a necessity for evidencing compliance, but also for maintaining that satisfaction piece, and of course reducing disputes. Inventory Hive was developed because several years ago I rented a property and had a bad experience with that inventory process, and at the time I was a teacher, and then subsequently set up a business doing it the long way around with a digital camera and a Word doc. So really came into the industry, I suppose, with a fresh pair of eyes. And then subsequently, the reason we decided to build it was because we thought there are platforms out there, but the paperless process wasn't really fit for purpose. We make it so if a tenant wants to say something about an inventory, they can add a comment, but they have to add a photo, so you get that communication at the start, and we've kind of, I think that's why we've done well with, in the university market as well as, the PRS. So I suppose in a nutshell, it's increasingly about compliance, but also sort of, satisfaction now.
And it's a tricky market to satisfy that student demographic, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah, because let's face it, you have international students coming in from all over the world, so that they can amend the language of our emails so they can go out in Chinese. Obviously, we don't change the inventory itself to Chinese, because if they respond in Chinese, then you're screwed, really, aren't you? So, but yeah, just that that initial communication with the emails goes out in different languages, and and it's very much about giving them that fair window. But of course, universities, they don't have the time to go around and do individual reports on each apartment. It's very much a templated approach. But yeah, it's all about that communication, and audit trail is the key, I think, isn't it?
Well, the students are all locked away in their homes at the moment, anyway, aren't they? So
yeah.
You wouldn't be able to get in at the moment. Anyway, I like the origin story though as well, Richard. I always like to do a bit of digging just to find out what it was that took you to this place. And so it was the classic. It was the classic. You saw something that wasn't particularly working for you though, and thought you could be done better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a huge leap of faith. Very early on, we partnered up with the Residential Landlords Association, and we're now a preferred supplier with the NRLA, obviously because they recently merged. Which again is one of the reasons why we were well aligned with TDS. Because obviously they work closely with them as they do with other industry bodies as well. So, we've been all about trying to innovate, but not for the sake of it. I think it's easy sometimes to build features, but obviously we try to listen to our customers and have that drive our new features. But in turn, we also recognise that we have to bring some stuff out that's maybe not been done before and shake things up a bit. Like we released image recognition a couple of months ago, so You know, if somebody, you know, inventory clerks out there and agents that and landlords, you know, in the winter when they're stood outside having to type in 20 digits on a serial number, they can just take a snap of it now, and then we'll scan the image and tell them what the numbers are. They just have to, you know, click it to say yes. And you know, we see the use for that kind of technology is really going to be exciting. You know, that the artificial intelligence stuff over the next few years, I think there's a real buzz about that, and we've got loads of ideas about how that can be utilised. But I'm not going to give them all away today, Simon.
Absolute team. You threw the AI depth charge out there, and then you took it away from me at the last.
I know, just teasing it out.
You've guaranteed yourself another show anyway to come back and talk about that, and I'll just sit here like catnip, just going, talk to me about AI.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? You know what you know, what can be done with it these days. You know, the scope for it.
Just as an aside, it's genuinely exciting, as rather than it just being a buzzword now, the really incredible thing is you can actually start to see where it's going to be delivering real benefit in day-to-day. And, you know, certainly where there's anything repetitious, AI and machine learning, to give it its other kind of moniker, isn't it? Is a really, really impressive area. And absolutely, we've got a couple of AI shows planned to go ahead, so we'll get you back on that. And don't worry about it actually being finished or not. I never worried about that in my days.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that we joke about internally, Simon, is that it's always on the roadmap. You know, it's that roadmap might be 5 years long, but it's always on the roadmap. That's the plan.
If it's on PowerPoint, it's real. Anyway.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, PowerPoint is my friend, much to our devs' dismay. You know, when I pull up another PowerPoint.
Yeah. That doesn't look like you logged in there. No, you're well spotted. So what do you, again, just picking up on this then, Richard. So what does Inventory Hive do in terms of from start to finish? What's the service that you can provide for people?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you know, if we were looking at, I suppose it all depends on, you know, because we have different types of user. So obviously, you know, we try to have the offering flexible. So, you know, if, for example, it was a letting agent using our platform, you know, strictly speaking, I think the stuff that we're really good at is we've made it a very sort of intuitive, user-friendly platform. But you know, our support is outstanding, and you know, when somebody comes on with us and has a trial period, you know, we really show them a lot of love and hold their hand, and you know, we don't put pressure on them, but we want to make it so that they're an expert during that period. So by the time they you know, decide to commit, all being well, we can then onboard their data. We can allow their team to then go out and, you know, and create their reports, and ultimately they'll use our app on iOS or Android. They'll go out into the field, they'll work offline, increasingly using 360 cameras as well. And I think that's a key thing where we've kind of, you know, set ourselves apart really is, you know, the traditional way of doing an inventory was to do everything, you know, from scratch. Now, obviously, we put loads of sort of shortcuts and cloning features so they don't have to keep repeating themselves from room to room. But I think the most popular part of that at the moment is going into a room, tagging a 360 image, taking some standard snaps, and then getting out. So the benefit being they could be in a house for maybe 15 minutes, a 2-bed house, 10 to 15 minutes, take their 360s, and then they can go home or back to the office and then navigate the room from the 360s and finish off the report. Now that was just, you know, I suppose pipe dreams a few years ago, that they would never have been able to do that. They would have had to have gone in and maybe do everything in the property and spend 2 hours. You know, in the winter when it's freezing cold and the heating's not on, you know, you don't want to be walking around the house and commenting on the skirting board. You know, you want to be able to go in and do things efficiently. So, you know, to summarise, we're you know, I suppose we're end to end, you know, before and after platform, and obviously the bits in between. So we were the first ones in March to bring out virtual visits. You know, the ability to do management visits remotely. You know, some of our competitors followed suit, and rightly so, because I think it's the right thing to do. And you know, and obviously we don't have the monopoly on having ideas, and you know, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't see other ideas from other people and think, yeah, that's a nice idea. But you know, yeah, we were the first ones to bring that in, and I suppose in this time at the moment, it's about allowing things to be done remotely and safely, and you know. But the key to that, of course, if you're going to do that, is audit trailing. You know, and that's something we do very well on the platform.
So it strikes me as an outsider, albeit a bit of a train spotter outsider, that, you know, one of Inventory Hive's skills is that it obviously it's strong technically, but it does have a strong customer support ethos, but also that it's just really quick to pivot as well. You know, you are able rather than some companies which, some tech firms in the industry, they get there in the end. It feels like it's a life stage. You guys can really, when you see an opportunity, move quite quickly to make that happen, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the bit that I'm the most proud of, really, when I look back at what we've done over the last we've been sort of 5-6 years in the making, but when we initially started, we were working with a developer, and over time, we've now got all of our development resources in house. Which is a massive achievement. We didn't go out and do crowdfunding and get £20 million and squander it, because sometimes you see that happening quite a lot. We did it organically and a lot of blood, sweat and tears, just getting a product out there and having something unique and listening and responding. And that first 2 years was really tough, but the last 2 years we've really seen lift off, and obviously and it's nice to think that we've done things that haven't been done before, which have made us more attractive. We've got groups managing up to 50,000 properties on the platform now, which is a great achievement. And obviously with the relationship with TDS, we're obviously initially focusing that purely towards landlords, but we've got some great ideas in the pipeline, which ultimately, as Michael says, is designed to reduce disputes, and professionalise the industry. And so it's I've got that sort of renewed vigour, I suppose, because that COVID period's been tough for everyone, hasn't it? But it's nice to have that to look forward to.
Absolutely, yeah. A couple of hellos here from people watching. We've got Michelle, who just makes the point, yes, she remembers those days, cold houses, writing everything down. So coming from the heart, from a solid experience there. And Mr. Byfield, prop tech legend, just waving hello as well. And indeed, he's excited by the news ahead. So
we won't say too much on that one without giving too much away. But we've had some good conversations on that side as well with Christian. So and obviously what Christian's developed at the depository, it's understanding, isn't it, that it's all about that time efficiency piece at the end of a tenancy. Where does prop tech drive value for agents? It's saving time, making them more transparent, and he certainly nailed that brief with the depository. So and it's great to see him doing well, because obviously, having been through that journey, I know it's a labour of love and it's a leap of faith, isn't it? But best of luck to Christian with that, because he seems to be flying, which is great.
And he was very suave, just had a normal haircut before he went into this, and you saw him now. He's this strange wild Viking now. He's become a prop tech legend. So anyway.
I attempted to grow a beard during lockdown, but it didn't work. It looked like my head was on upside down, Simon, so I left it.
I'm just glad that Zoe's not on today, because she's taken to describing me now as Jeremy Beadle, which is actually quite hurtful.
You can't make me laugh, Simon, because it's.
Sorry. So if I start saying today what Richard doesn't know, and we're going to go to a camera where your car is.
Yeah, that's it with the crane. Yeah, scooping it up.
So okay, let's just take it back to Richard. So, what do you think then? You've mentioned a few different things there, but obviously there are other inventory solutions out there. What do you think you do different in comparison to those?
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is it's, I suppose, being innovative is the key thing. We didn't just want to create something that that is maybe cheaper on price. We wanted it to offer real value. So, for example, we have like pre-arrival document serving in our platform as well. So, we can make sure that the how to rent guide and the gas safety cert has been served within the process. We make sure that the tenants have a fair say within that as well. And the things like flipping 360 inventories into tours is a big thing as well. So we're going to be quite a versatile platform in that respect.
That's a really slick idea. When you say it, of course, it seems so obvious, but like so many good innovations, that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? It should seem obvious after the event.
This is it, and those things you think, in some ways you think I'll be relatively quick to develop that, but there are lots of 360 platforms out there, but I can't think of one, or actually. I could be wrong there, so I'll be careful saying that, but I can't think of one where their app actually talks directly to the camera, which is a key thing, because if you go to a house and it's got 10 bedrooms and you take 10 photos on a 360 camera, when you look back at the image, it's like looking into a spoon. you can't work out where it is. So, with our app, as you're going, you're tagging the image in the right space. So when you come back, it's that side of it's done. And I think, and that's why, we were able to, during lockdown, we some of our team had to go and do 95 reports on a particular building. And these were like individual reports, on individual apartments. And so they spent a day and a half on site just taking 360s and standard photos, and then they typed the rest up over the course of a week. Now, of course, if they hadn't have had that tag feature in the right room and space, they'd have had thousands of images, and they would never have known which one it related to. It would have just been, it would have been impossible.
Oh, it would have been a horror show, wouldn't it? Just administratively, I absolutely see that. Well, look, Rick,
Yeah.
did you have a little break and have a sip of Horlicks? Michael. Before we just deal with the TDS, Michael, why did you see this as being so important, doing it with Inventory Hive? What do you see about Inventory Hive that stands out from the crowd?
Yeah, so I think obviously I said our experience in dispute resolution is that how important inventory reports are. We see a ton of disputes where there's either a poor inventory report or an inventory or one just doesn't exist. And that means that the landlord isn't protected against any damage to the property, and similarly the tenant isn't protected against any pre-existing damage which may have been there and they're now potentially being blamed for. So we've worked in the past with the likes of AIIC to produce documentation on best practice for inventories, but I think we felt it was time to partner up with someone who we believed was producing a really good solution. And that actually that solution would drive professionalism within the sector. So one of the features Richard touched on, which we were really keen on, was this ability to allow the tenant to comment on it. Yeah. So it means that the landlord can produce this document, and they then have an audit trail of it being sent to the tenant being given an opportunity to comment, and if there is anything that they think is inaccurate in the inventory, they can take a photograph and embed that and say, actually there is a mark here on the wall. And so I think that because we're impartial and because we want all parties to be protected, that feature also allows us to say that actually this is a really good tool for tenants as well as just landlords and agents.
Yeah, brilliant. And just give us an overview again, Michael. Just talk us through the TDS role.
Yeah, so the dispute service, obviously, we have a range of initiatives on the market. The main thing that we do is obviously tenancy deposit protection. Yeah. So at the start of the tenancy, the Housing Act dictates that the deposit holder has to protect that deposit, and we allow them to fulfil that obligation. We have the insured scheme and the custodial scheme. The legislation dictates that we need to offer free dispute resolution at the end of a tenancy if there is a dispute. So we have a large team that deals with tenancy deposit disputes. And so what we do is we allow the agent or landlord to raise a claim with us if they feel that they're due a deduction from the tenancy deposit. And then we provide the tenant with an opportunity to review that claim, to review the evidence, and to either dispute it or agree. And I think that that's a really key part, that they both know what's being claimed and what's going on, and we will then make an impartial decision. We have experts, independent adjudicators who will review that claim and decide whether the claim is justified or not. So we see the importance of evidence and photographs and inventory reports and all of those things. And so I think, we also see the ones that maybe aren't so good, and the claims that fail because there's a lack of evidence, and so I think it just seemed like the right time to choose a preferred supplier within that inventory sector and say, actually, this is a really good solution and it will actually help to reduce disputes. And I think similarly, sorry, Richard, I was just going to say, agents and landlords, sometimes it's difficult to negotiate with a tenant when there's that lack of evidence, and they then have to come to dispute, and it has to come to us, and it has to go through our team. Whereas actually, if they have that really clear evidence, those benchmarks at the start and end of tenancy, they can almost do that themselves, which is what we want. We want them to be able to negotiate and to chat with each other and to reach a resolution.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to what Michael said there as well, I think one of the big issues historically is that tenants often only look at their inventory when they're moving out, because it's either being done via an attended check-in, which as a platform, we allow our users to do, but we've never actually suggested it's the best way of doing it. On the back of the tenant fee ban, doing an inventory and then going back to the house 2 days later to meet the tenant there is not perhaps the most efficient way of doing things. And there's also got pitfalls within that as well, because firstly, let's face it, if I'm a tenant and I'm moving in and I've got the removal van waiting outside, the last thing I want to do is stand there walking around and talking about the skirting boards. I just want to get my stuff moved in. I'm not saying that tenants are pressured, but I'm just saying that, there are instances where they'll just sign anything. They're not engaging with it. They just want to get that box ticked and get their stuff in the house. Now, what we've always advocated at Inventory Hive is you're much better off capturing the tenant's signature remotely before they move in, which our system then stores, which means when they move in, they then have a window in which they can view it on their phone and feedback. So they don't have to download an app. It's all done via secure email, but they can look at it on a web page responsively on their phone. And then if they find a problem, they can add a comment. And of course, the other benefit is, yourself, you've been in a house for a couple of days living there, you might notice that the shower screen's loose, that the kitchen drawer falls apart when you open it. Those issues can then get raised into the report, which means that you end up having more satisfied tenants, because not only have they been able to raise maintenance issues, which do cross over with an inventory, they can raise those, but also they have a report they've engaged with, which means at the end of the tenancy, if they say, oh, it was like that when I moved in, it's very hard for them to say that, because actually, they've had the opportunity to feed back. So, they can't say that stain was there in the corner of the room when they moved in, when they fed back on, on a handful of other items, because that's where it doesn't become plausible for them to do that. And as Michael said there, the benefit of our partnership means that we can put good industry practice in front of our user base, and obviously the aim being to create higher quality inventory reports, which can only be a good thing. I would say it's worth mentioning that even on Inventory Hive, someone can create a bad report. There's no guarantee, and we've always said that with our relationship, TDS is not saying here that they would favour an Inventory Hive report. It's always going to be assessed objectively, and there's always going to be that wider education piece that TDS will collaborate with, so that our competitors and anybody else that wants general advice on inventories will be able to have access to that stuff, because we're not trying to monopolize the market. We just see that a tech solution and the dispute service, what they provide, the two coming together, is only going to be have a positive outcome. But we're not under any illusion that if somebody picked up our app and didn't even look around the room and just bashed the keys, they could create any old nonsense, couldn't they? It's only as good as the input.
Yeah, I think we recognise that tech is an enabler, and actually this is a really good method for producing inventory reports, and you can come up with a really good one, a comprehensive one. But as Richard says, if you miss certain items in the property, or you fail to describe their condition or cleanliness, you could still produce a quite poor report, and that means that you'd be unsuccessful in a dispute. So there's still quite a lot to be done in terms of how's best to use the software and produce good reports. But we think this is a really good start.
You're quite right. It's an enabler. It's not a magic wand at the end of the day, is it?
No, absolutely.
And you've got a Kerfuffle. Oh, you obviously got 5-star ratings on Kerfuffle at the moment, which is great to see. Here's one from Deborah of Nicholas Humphreys, who said, Hive's an excellent solution for preparing inventories thoroughly. In addition to saving time and streamlining processes, there is a fantastic support team behind the product, which is what you were just echoing earlier, isn't it? It's not just about the tech, as important as that is. You've got a very human piece as well in terms of the customer service. So, to be honest, it would have been embarrassing if she'd said something else.
It would have been, yeah. But joking apart as well, I did think to myself before, it'd be nice to put some plants in there that could say some nice comments. But hands up, honestly, I never had a chance to do it. So that's really kind of Deborah, because that's a genuine comment. So
you would have seen then the defence mechanisms at Kerfuffle HQ go into play. You should do the magic shit we've got going on to spot those false reviews.
Yeah, see them coming a mile off, don't you? But no, that's really kind of her.
I basically try and think, what would I have written in my days when I was writing a testimonial?
Yeah. If she'd have repeated something that I'd already said, that would have been great, wouldn't it?
Signing them all off Simon was probably my downfall. But anyway, that explains why I'm not a reaper anymore. But anyway, that's a hard Michael, same question back to you, though. Of course, what makes TDS different?
Yeah, I think the dispute service, as I said, we are a not-for-profit, and there is a focus on actually raising standards in the sector. I know it's quite easy to say, but we have the TDS Charitable Foundation, which we grant money to different projects and initiatives throughout the sector that we think will actually add value. So there's this focus on raising standards. I think we have a lot of contacts within the PRS that we work quite closely with to try and drive that message and to add value to all different customer bases. And there is a real focus at TDS on a sort of an award-winning customer service. So we hope that our customers see us as approachable, that they're able to ring us when they have a problem, and that we have that sort of experience and expertise to answer their questions and to genuinely guide them in the right direction. And I think we've worked with, as we touched on earlier, the depository, which is a end of tenancy management tool. We work closely with Arla. All of these things we think sort of drive value to the sector and to the customer and drive efficiencies. And so I think it's easy to just highlight our core business and say this is what we do, but actually there is a genuine desire there to sort of to raise standards.
You judge people by your actions, really, don't you, rather than what they say? As you said, there's plenty of companies out there that say the right thing. The thing I like about you guys is it's just hard coded into your briefing, into your DNA, really, isn't it? It's not like you can do anything else but be that. So that's impressive. I was going to be nice to Christian Byfield, but he did follow up the earlier conversation by saying you can talk Tiger King. Just to point out, he was calling me Tiger King before the show even piloted on TV. So he's blame, mate. He's exposed himself, and then he also said that Beadle's hands are much bigger. Which, as I said, just to point out again, this isn't the Serious Watkins show. This is Kerfuffle. We have a very different audience.
Brilliant,
guys. In terms of the partnership itself, Richard? What's this going to bring to Inventory Hive clients?
Yeah, so I think above and beyond anything else, they're going to have access to to webinar content that is both prevalent and based on best industry practice. Now, and of course, the other key point here is that when we develop new features, that we're able to have access to a network of experts that really know their onions. Which is great. I mean, obviously we've done well, on our own over the last 4 years, but I think sometimes, you get to that point, don't you, where you've got a critical mass of customers, and because they're quite sort of widely spread from landlords, right through to large scale universities. We want to be able to give content that's relevant and make sure that we've not left any stone unturned when we're making development decisions. So I just think it's going to enable us to expedite that development much quicker, which again can only really be a good thing for anybody, any stakeholder, I suppose, engaging with the platform. And as we said before, that includes tenants as well, because that they in busy periods we can do up to 60,000 of these approval emails every month now on the platform, and so that's a lot of tenants engaging with a lot of reports. I mean, that includes virtual visits, inventories as well. So there's a lot of engagement going on there out in the market. So and obviously anything we can do to push on, because I've got loads of PowerPoints for my developers. They can't wait. They can't wait.
And you need to just start ticking a few of the ones off going live, just to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like next week. Sorry, Simon, carry on, mate.
I was just going to say they're forever coming to you. Let's just stop spinning those plates, Richard. Come on, let's get a few.
That's the problem sometimes, isn't it? You can have all these ideas, and then you can try and focus on too many, and we've really tried to do that in recent months. Focus on the here and now and the low lying fruit and the stuff that we know is most important for our users, and focus on that, because you could get romanced by all the other stuff, and you end up building nothing then.
Well, you're rightly excited by it, and that's great to see, because actually there's nothing more depressing when I talk on these shows, and if you as the founders and owners of the businesses can't get excited about it, then sure no one else is going to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it says about me as well, Simon. I must be a bit of a sad case if I get excited about inventories. It's
Look, it wasn't for me to say. I get to choose this wacky pink end of the spectrum.
Yeah. This is it.
You guys do the actual work. I'm in a different space.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one thing I think that's really important to point out there is, of course, you spoke about, you've been going at this now for 4 years, but, scalability there. Did you say you had one client who's doing over 50,000? Has got over
So no, 50,000 properties,
Wow.
on the platform. So, so obviously in terms of reports there, they could be doing anything up to sort of, 3 or 4 reports every year. So I mean, with one client alone, there you could be talking up to 200,000 reports on the platform each year, which is mad, really. When we started out, and I'll never forget when we pushed those first emails out. We started to get the odd landlord trialing, and we've come a long way since there. But
that magical moment when almost by surprise you go, bloody hell, it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You have all these milestones, don't you, along the way with anything, and I've become less nostalgic than I used to be. The only downside to being Inventory Hive is that my wife can't go anywhere without buying bee memorabilia. So whether it's a tea towel or a fluffy toy. I've probably got various bits in the office here at home now.
Yeah, you get yourself down here. There's nothing there. And next time, I expect you in a full bee fancy dress, or we're not talking again.
I'm sure I could oblige somewhere. I'm looking for one now. I can't find it. Anyway.
Don't worry about it. I did actually, bizarrely, in one of my weaker moments last year, I did for some reason sponsor a honey hive in Sevilla that started making brand whale honey. That was a short-lived revenue stream. It's amazing how few people willingly take a bottle of honey off you at the EA Masters. Have some whaley honey. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, this is it. Like we did honey actually on a few shows. Just dishing out the honey. It's it's amazing that every now and then you would have someone that said they don't like honey, and I didn't think there was anybody in the world that didn't like honey.
Don't trust them. Never goes off. Yeah. Greatest substance in the world. Anyway, bloody hell, we're even going off piece for me.
Digress a bit.
Okay. Yeah. And Michael, from your side point of view, TDS customers, what's the reverse? What do you see from the partnership?
Yeah, so I think, as Richard touched on earlier, obviously this is targeted primarily in the first instance at landlords. We have a really large customer base of landlords, especially independent ones. So those landlords who don't use an agent at all, only have sort of 1 or 2 properties, or the accidental landlords who's inherited a property and maybe isn't up to speed with everything they need to do and everything that's expected of them.
Yeah.
So we do get a lot of questions, before a case comes to dispute or afterwards on why are they important, how do you do them, what's the best way to do them, and so I think this relationship with Inventory Hive, who are experts, means that we're best placed to guide these customers and answer these questions. And similarly, we can push those towards Inventory Hive and say, there is a good solution here that will help you to do that, and you will benefit from all of the additional value and benefits that TDS bring to that relationship. And I think the other main one is hopefully less disputes. So it's a benefit for us, obviously, as a business, but actually for the individual, you don't ever want to have to go to a dispute at the end of a tenancy. You want to prepare at the start of the tenancy for the end of the tenancy. So being able to say to them, this is how to produce a good report, and this is type of software or type of solution you can use, and hopefully at the end of the tenancy you won't have to have that argument with the tenant. You will both be best placed to say, oh well, actually we can see that the property is a bit less clean, so let's settle on a sum to have the property clean, for example.
Michael, this is really unfair, but it's just because it really interested me as you were talking about that. Is a KPI for you as a business avoiding the actual dispute happening in the first place, or resolving it satisfactorily? What has priority and prominence at TDS?
I think as much as we'd like to, you can't stop people from falling into a dispute. We don't have any control over the way that they negotiate before it comes to us. So I think the main sort of measure for us is A, can we resolve this dispute quickly and fairly for them? And B, can we encourage them to resolve it without our input? So we will, for example, our team are trained to, if a claim comes in that they think is unreasonable or is unsupported by the evidence, or on the flip side, really reasonable and really obvious, they will attempt to negotiate between the parties and say, look, guys, can you reach an agreement on this? This is what we kind of think of it, because we don't want them to have to sit there whilst we process the dispute, collect evidence, and then pass it to an adjudicator. We'd much rather that they resolve it and get their money back quickly. In our custodial scheme, for example, we've introduced, a self-resolution portal. So we sort of have the ability, we was talking about AI earlier, for them to go in, a landlord can go in and say, I'd like £100 for cleaning. And the tenant can go in and say, well, I'll only offer you £20. So then we could pay out that £20 essentially, because that's no longer in dispute. And they can back and forth on a number of things, redecoration, damage, gardening, cleaning, until they reach an agreement on them. And sometimes that takes the emotion out of it, and it allows them to just deal with the figures and say, well, actually, I do think some gardening is justified, so I'll offer 50 quid. And the landlord might say, well, they're offering 50, so why don't I reduce it from 150 down to 100? And they might end up being able to meet in the middle and save us going through that process.
It's weird, isn't it? As the world feels like it's going down the toilet out there, technology is just doing some truly special stuff, isn't it? I mean, when you look at it, there's a bit of black magic in there in terms of the simplicity of what it's actually enabling you to do is brilliant.
Yeah. So we think, we are driven to try and resolve these early. It's not a benefit to anyone to sit there and go through a dispute process. And like I say, no one wants to. And I think that's why this relationship is important, because Inventory Hive and the solution they provide will inevitably reduce disputes, because you're going to have a really comprehensive and detailed benchmark at the start and the end of the tenancy that the landlord and the tenant can openly discuss and can reach an agreement on.
Perfect. And Richard, I believe you've got a deal for our fabulous Kerfuffle members as well. Do you want to just give us an overview of that?
Yeah, so you've put me on this one now, Simon. I'm trying to remember it. So what we did was we did a deal whereby if somebody signs up on a free trial with us, they get a 30-day free trial. This is specifically targeted towards letting agents and inventory clerks, the Kerfuffle deal. So if they come on a free trial period with us and they book up a demo inside 14 days, if they subsequently decide to subscribe, then we'll do 20% off for the first 6 months.
Right.
So you can find that on the Kerfuffle site as well. They'll just need to quote it when they come through to our support team, but our team will get in touch with them straight away anyway if they sign up on a trial, because that's what we always do. We give them a call and then get booked in on a personal screen share, and there's no commitment or anything for them to do that, so that they can feel free to join on that whenever they want.
No credit cards needed. That was the bit I like about it. That's the one that always gets me. So
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, Richard, that's really kind of you. Thanks. I'm just posting up on all the just different social media platforms we're on at the moment. I've just put the link in there for Inventory Hive. Very, very obvious to sign up for it if you want to. Obviously, just mention when you speak to their team that obviously you're a Kerfuffle member and get on board. Just to reiterate again there, see, we've got all this plan. This is how deep. I don't know. I don't actually know how this stuff happens, but it just keeps appearing. Free demo, get 6 months for 20% discount there. Find out more, obviously, on your landing page, kerfuffle.com deals Inventory Hive review. And you could click the I'm interested button as well there, and we will obviously get in. Have a good look around there, people. Obviously, these guys are 5-star rated. See some of the reviews that they've already got there. And, of course, if you are a happy client as well, please share the love with both of these companies. That would be great to have more feedback as well. Guys, that's really, I think that's really important. So thank you for taking the time to describe this. As you know, I am a big fan of these partnership ones. It's what we know agents want. They get very disappointed, frustrated that their tech stack is seemingly quite isolated and disparate. So the more and more you can do things like this, I think you're really going to help meet their goals. So summarize again, of course, look, it's great for you two companies. It's absolutely great for obviously the lettings agents, but crucially, and the one to remember most above all, it's brilliant for the tenants and the landlords, isn't it? That's what you've tried to get across, I think, over the course of the previous 45 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and and I suppose just worth mentioning as well that anyone that does sign up on a trial at the minute, we're running webinar week next week. So towards the end of this week, we'll be pushing out a series of webinars that we've put together in collaboration with the TDS and also actually one with NRLA as well. So they'll be able to sign up on those. There's no cost for those; they're free for anybody. They'll get invited on the platform.
Cool, and I'll remind anybody, but especially Richard, do share those dates and times for any webinars you got up there, and we of course will put them on our blog as well to make sure you get the biggest possible exposure on that as well. And here we can see. So there we are, back up on the supplier spotlight. That's straight up on the landing page. 2 goodbyes. He did fly off earlier. Yeah, just a lovely way to end the show. Got to go, chaps. Seriously, a great partnership, driving up standards in innovation, with more innovation and collaboration yet to come. That's from Mr. Agent and Mr. PropTech himself, so you can't really get better there. And then just to prove that it's the Kerfuffle podcast, Simon is the honey monster. So there we go. Michael, thank you very much. Very exciting. Richard, I'll let you get back to bed for the next 2 or 3 weeks to get over your man flu.
Yeah, at least 3.
Brilliant. Thanks for having us, Simon.
Thanks very much.